you made 400,000 doing personal training.
Yes.
Break that down.
So okay, so let's fast forward a little bit. I was at LA Fitness working there. Like break down just that. You want to just go over that specific year of money, or
Yeah,
just
yeah.
okay? So basically, I had started on my own with my online business. It was just me doing my thing, and I made like 150K on my own. No team. I mean, I started. I got like a VA, and I had one sales consultant at this time. Or sorry, at the latter end of that year. This was during COVID, and that was cool. But I ended up getting a mentor named Vince Del Monte. So I know I mentioned Brandon Carter, which was shout outs to Brandon Carter. He was the first guy to actually show me that you can make money online. But Vince Del Monte really taught me the depths of things and like got me in community and motivated me in a way where I didn't really get in the last mastermind. So at that point I learned ads and stuff like that. So I remember this is still in the year prior to the 400. This was the 150 year. Yo, I made like 16. By the way, still living in like government housing. I made like 16K. I was at my mom's house, and the next month when I ran my first ad, I made like $30,000. And this was like with no team. This was November. I had nobody. So all of that was mine at that time, right? And then the VA and then the money on the ad spend. The next month, that's when I moved out into the condo I'm at to this day in Saga. I'm like, okay, I'm done with this hood thing. Tired of these pissy staircases. So I moved out there, and then that's when like the right people, I should say, were on the bandwagon. Like my VP that I actually worked with at LA Fitness, shout outs to Omar, my guy. He came on board, and he actually, when we worked together at LA Fitness, he remembers me talking about this. He's like, I was like, yo, man, we're gonna be out of here. We're gonna be online doing sales calls, like just making money. Like I'm telling you, bro. Because going back to what I was saying off record, Samantha being my first deal online, or not my first deal, one of them. She was my first PIF though. She was my first paid in full. I remember I went on a lunch break while I was at work, and she bought $1,000 program in like an hour sales call. And I remember coming back to work wilding, bro.
Oh, another thousand. I just got 1,000. That's a fact. Yeah.
I was wilding. I was like, yo, I made $1,000 in an hour. Like, I don't know. I didn't know how to act. I didn't know. I couldn't even sit still. I was like, yo, this is crazy, right? So but again, at that time, I still wasn't ready to go all in. Like, you're not thinking, okay, yeah, I made one sale, like I can leave. Some people may think that. Some people don't even need that. But for me, I still wasn't at that point. But anyway, to fast forward, Omar, one of my coworkers or my manager at the time, he came on board, and obviously he was a VP of LA Fitness of personal training sales. So selling is like nothing for him, right? That he was managing like I think like 10 or more LA Fitnesses, like managing the sales team. So that's like what he does. So he came on board that January. Man, we cleared like 50,000 that month with him, commanding charge with his sales acumen. I actually had another guy as well who I was working with at another LA Fitness who was crushing it as well. Like he was actually shout out to Tristan, my guy. He was selling my own program for more than I was. Like I would have sell it for like 1,000. This guy was like 1,600, 3-month program, and he was making sales. Yeah, so that was really awesome to just kind of see like how these guys are really contributing and doing things with a zeal. But yeah, I gave them 25%. So essentially they got their commissions, and yeah, we killed it that year. We killed it that year. Just ads, V ads to the DM, to the VA, having a conversation, to the application, to the one sub scheduler, to the sales call, to the sale, to the program. And that was it. And I had at that time like 4 trainers on board that were taking care of the clients. So at that point, I was like letting go of the load of me actually training people myself online, right? And that there's another story in and of itself as it relates to that. because there was a point in time in my business where I was like, okay, what do I do? Like, I feel like everybody's doing something. I don't know what I do. What do I do
Like, you've
now?
already set up the systems, you have everything rolling. Like,
Yeah.
what am I supposed to do now?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So it was interesting. It was interesting.
So that was the 150 year.
No.
That was the 400K.
No,
year.
the 150 year
was before that.
Yeah, was before that, and then the January was the next year when
Got you.
Omar and everyone, like, all hands
got on
were on
board.
deck. Yeah,
got
yeah,
you.
yeah.
Got you. So now with that, from what you told me off record, that you actually want to slow down. It wasn't fitting for you. What happened?
Good question. Good question. So this is where a lot of business owners trick people, right? And say, yo, my business is generating $1 million or my, and I'm not saying everyone does this, because I also hate that other extreme side of like, yeah, they're just saying they're making $1 million, but they're not making nothing. No, there's a lot of guys that if they say they're making $1 million, their margins are high, right? But I noticed that my margins were so tight that I started getting to a point where I'm like, it. So like when I made my 150, that was like 95% in my pocket. You know what I mean? So no one else was touching it at that time outside of like my mother. You know what I mean? But then when I had a whole team, I'm like paying 25% commissions to my salespeople. I'm paying basically 25% of each deal to my clients. I'm paying for ads. I'm paying VAs, which isn't that much, but still, nevertheless, I'm paying for VAs. So my profit margins were like,
Listen, the more subscribers we have, the better the guests get. So please hit subscribe. Let's get back to the show.
30, 20%. So I was making 20, 30% in my pocket, and then everything else was spread out to everybody else. And at the same time, there was a lot of work I had to do, right? I'm doing meetings, I'm doing sales meetings, I'm doing meetings with my trainers, I'm putting out fires. So there were still, I know I said I didn't have anything
It's
to
the
do.
activity you're doing.
There's a lot of stupid activity. So I essentially had to kind of deflate that what's it called, that model, and we had discussed off record kind of what I'm moving in towards now.
That's a big gem. That's a big gem because you feel like you're building up this big business. Then you look around and all the margins going elsewhere besides your pockets and besides pouring back into the business. So it's kind of eating itself.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Nah, that's real. That's real. A lot of service-based businesses go through that because the person that is fulfilling the service, fulfilling the deal, isn't you.
Right.
You know, so that's a big lesson for a lot of entrepreneurs. A lot of the big lesson. So now, where do you go from there? You just say, all right, I'm just going to deflate that. And are you in a new system now?
So I'm starting up a new system. I kind of just went back to what I was doing before I put on the team, because we were talking off the record about how certain people will say like you need to have a 10 out of 10 girl, and creating these false needs. Same idea with entrepreneurs. People say things like, oh, you don't have a business, you have a high paying job. Okay. I don't buy